Good afternoon, all. CamelbackTrading.org coming to you this Monday afternoon, August 3rd. We're looking at the SPY ETF's market profile here on Window Trader. And basically, the day did exactly what I thought it would do, as we did get into that gap and ate away at it a lot, but we did not come even close to filling it. It was 535 points to start with. It ends at 296 points. The good news for the bulls is both the monthly and weekly gap held from today's gap higher. That's very impressive. Now, we never saw the opening again after C&D's long liquidation flush out. The only thing that happened today that really we didn't call well, and not that we didn't call it well, but it surprised me, is M period, the way it kind of flushed out, and we didn't go and attempt a price probe with the indices being so strong. We had a pretty good day in the room, banged them around pretty good. Again, played small a good part of the day, took a couple of larger plays when it was mandated. That worked out very, very nicely. So we opened on a gap, right? We opened above the monthly high, opened above the weekly high, came in, didn't fill the gap. I got long. Didn't even care if it went back to the open at that point. I bought the 327 calls against the gap fill. That worked out nicely. My first three trades are all longs. Again, B period open. Now, remember we talk about the lowest accepted price. A closed, B open, went straight up. So when it came down a little bit, took a long against that lowest accepted price. Again, the 320. This time I went with the 328 calls, and that trade worked out as I thought we were going to go get the naked POC that we had from February 4th. We didn't get it at that time, but the trade still worked out nicely. Now, it turned out it was not a lowest accepted price because we took it out in both C and D, which kind of surprised me. When you stop the one-time framing up after only one time frame, the buyers are not as strong as they should be. Right? So what happened? I didn't do anything in C, but in D period, once we count back below the opening, got back above the POC at the time, took a long looking to see if we were going to make a new, to stop the one-time framing. We did that. I bought the 329 calls once we took out C's high, because I thought the odds of taking out B's high were very good. So I took him. I didn't take it when it went back above the open. I wanted more confirmation. That was when we took out C's high. I got long, added to them a couple of times. I bought the 329s. I figured we'd pop the top. I didn't want to buy. I didn't want to go long at the high because at that point I was looking to fade it. So that turned out to be very nice, being long in D and E. Got up to the high and got out. I didn't do anything in E. My next trade was in G, as I was looking for an afternoon pullback low. At the time, it looked like that would be it. I took a short when G got up to D's high, didn't take it out, took it back down. I bought the 330 puts on those. And again, these are all expiration from today. Did nothing then, watched it for a while. H, I, J, K, didn't do anything. And then an L period. Actually, that's not true. I did take a short in J. I'm sorry. I faded J's high looking to come back. Added onto it a little bit in K. Came back in. I still had him in L. I never really added on. I had 20s, took some off when it came in, added a little bit. I mean, I was nothing really big here. L never took out K's high, started coming in, took them off. A lot of the room, held on to the short very nicely, right back down to POC. And the reason fading these worked was because we had a chance for a trend day up 3 times. Now, they weren't large single prints, but anytime you have single prints and they don't fill, well, then the odds are they're going to rotate back down to POC. And we ended 11 wide. So those were good trades. That's why I didn't want to be long at the highs of the day. I wanted to be long on the breaks of certain time frames to get to the high and then get out and short it. Those are the trades I was looking for. Can you say this is a P shape? I guess you can. It's a crappy looking one. Never like to see C and D down here, right? You want the stem to be A and then B. But again, maybe this was just some short covering. That remains to be seen. And then in M period, M really flushed out hard, gave me a beautiful opportunity. I bought the 328 calls at 70 cents, and they went right back to 90 cents in a heartbeat. I made about 20 cents, just under 20 cents on a 50 contract. I had more from earlier when I first bought and rode those back up when it went. So it was a good day. Didn't take anything really big, major at all. In B period, I started with, I think I had 60 lots as my biggest. M period, I was probably 70 at my biggest. Nothing huge, and they all worked out. All right, destinations for tomorrow. For the upside, we are 11 wide at 328.90. So buyers and sellers, we're very happy to do business there. I wouldn't doubt if we revisit that tomorrow, since we have the gaps below us and the gaps above us. Then we have today's high of 329.62, and then filling that gap at 332.58. It is now down to 296 points. So we took off just about 239 ticks today. Pretty good, not good enough. I told you we're not going to fill it without the next time frame in one shot. The more we get into it, the more the short-term traders can keep nibbling, but you knew it wasn't going to go today. For the downside, here's where things are a little interesting. We have today's low is the first destination of 327.73, and then we have two separate gap fills. One is at 273.23. It's a 50-point monthly gap, which is never held, by the way. A monthly gap is never held. Then we have 327.73, and then filling the weekly gap at 326.63. That's a 110-point gap. Then we have the price probe from the 31st of July, 326.13, 321.33 daily low, and then those two other weekly lows, 319.64 and 319.25. Now let's go to the charts. Monthly, one time framing up 3 months, have a gap so far this month. Again, once we get that gap from February, the all-time high is firmly in sight. Weekly, one time framing up 4 weeks. We've come out of an inside week to the upside on a gap that is so far held. By the end of this week, last week's high in SPY and last week's high in triple Qs are going to play a huge factor of how I think this market goes forward. Because if we stay above them and hold these gaps, all-time highs are coming in the SPY, and more all-time highs besides today are coming in the NASDAQ. However, if they close back into it, could be a different story. And then on the daily, out of this whole balance, right? That was a beautiful day on Friday. Look at that stem, and we followed through today with a gap higher that's holding. So all 3 time frames in the SPY are up. All 3 time frames have gaps. Right? We had that once before, back when we made our all-time highs, and then we saw what happened after that. Let's go to the triple Qs really quick, because you know that's one I've been following. Weekly, came out of balance on a gap to the upside. Now, the weekly balance for the triple Qs is 269.79. So that's what we want to stay above. So we closed into it today. But again, one day doesn't make a market. But for the triple Qs, you don't want to see a new high. Just stretch it a little bit, fill the gap, and get sucked into here. Because if you do, then you'd be looking at the other end of it of 351. So that's going to be important as the week goes on in the triple Qs. Anyway, very good day again in CamelbackTrading.org's trading room. Come check us out. Have a great night, and we'll speak prior to the opening tomorrow.